Welcome to another episode of Eastern Sierra Now, Business Matters with me, Amy Smith, where we bring you insights from local business owners and political candidates shaping the future of our community. Today we're joined by Dennis Freund, running for a seat on the Bishop City Council. Dennis and his wife Sarah have owned and managed the Bishop Grocery Outlet since 2019. With over 4 decades of business experience, he's developed a deep understanding of managing budgets, leading teams, and navigating the challenges of business ownership. We'll hear his thoughts on key issues in Bishop, from supporting small businesses to improving infrastructure and fostering economic growth. And for our YouTube watchers, don't forget to like and subscribe. It's very important and help keeps us going. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hi. Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
It's a beautiful day outside.
Always a beautiful day in Bishop.
It is.
Yeah.
And we're rolling into some cooler temperatures, so that's always nice for me.
Yes.
For you
definitely.
as well?
Yes.
Excellent. Dennis, you are running for a seat on the Bishop City Council. And I've invited you here today because our viewers and our listeners would love to hear your thoughts on Bishop and the future of Bishop. So if you have a few minutes, I'd love to jump into some questions with you.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. First off, you and your wife, Sarah, have been running the Bishop Grocery Outlet since 2019?
Yes, January 2019.
Oh, that's great. And now you're running for a seat on the Bishop City Council. Can you share what inspired you to step into local government and how your business experience has shaped your leadership approach?
Sure. I've been wanting to do politics for 15, 20 years. We thought about it when we lived in Clovis. The job that I had at that point, it was just too demanding. There was no way I could get time out. Try to attend a meeting or a subcommittee or whatever else. There was no way I could do it. I couldn't even get in to watch the events. So when we moved here, Sarah was like, "You should do it. It's great. It's a small town. We'll be able to get we'll be able to get the store functioning properly quickly, and then you can just get your feet wet like you wanted to." And it just wasn't the right time in the last election. Now the store is running really well. I have a staff that is fabulous, and I have that time to give back to the community. We've always given back. We're very involved in the Salvation Army, the VFW. We donate to all the schools. We donate time, effort. We help with the Eastern Sierra Cancer Runs, the Lone Pine Marathons, and assorted other avenues and volunteer organizations. And this is just the next step for me, really. Running a business is a lot like politics because you don't do everything. I mean, even as the owner of the store, people that go to my store see me working all the time, but I'm not doing everything. I'm just filling gaps.
Certainly.
Right? And I set the example for my people.
And you have decades of business experience.
Yeah.
So you've been here with Grocery Outlet for 7 years.
Yes.
But what experience did you bring to Bishop and to the store here? Where were you before Grocery Outlet?
The last job that I had was a district manager at Bed Bath & Beyond for 15 years. I started off as a manager trainee, worked my way up, store manager, district manager. I was a district manager for just over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And really with that, you have to learn how to communicate to people when you're not there, when you're not present. How do you, when I'm in Fresno, how do I get somebody in San Luis Obispo to make a move, do the job correctly? How do I teach them to teach their people? And I think in politics, it's a lot about the same thing. I'm not doing everything. We have the department heads they're great department heads. The current city council did a fabulous job hiring them. They're all relatively new. But
I've heard a lot of good feedback because I've been talking to a lot of candidates lately, and the feedback on the staff from every individual has been just primo on all of those folks. So
they have their own visions. They have their forecasts. The role of somebody in business as a business owner or in politics is you have to set the priority, right? It's not that they don't know what they're doing, but you may have a priority in the fire department over city planning. That may be where you have to spend your money this year.
Certainly.
But you won't know that till you get to that year.
Yes.
Right? So you have to pivot.
Yes, and plan for the emergencies.
Exactly.
And then we can put those emergencies on the back burner because we've planned for them. We don't need to actively worry about them.
Correct.
Yeah.
And in business, it's all about planning. I always tell people you're not successful in business until at least your second year. And I think that's the same in the city council. I don't know what I don't know. I have no clue. right?
And that's important to
yeah.
know that there's a lot that you don't know. And I think when you go into that, it allows you to have an open mind to learn and to understand. So
Correct.
Yeah.
And in business, you have to be okay to say you don't know something, because you don't know everything. And in the city council, I imagine there are times. Last night was a city council meeting, and one of the council people were like, "I don't know enough about this to have an informed decision."
well, that's great.
Right, and it's okay to say that.
Yes,
and
yeah.
people today, I think, are afraid to say that. They don't want to sound like they're uninformed.
Well, and
it's
we're,
okay.
We're so used to having information in the palm of our hands all of the time, but how we act in our experience can be different from what you
Correct.
may be able to comment on in a meeting on the spot like
Yep.
that. I always appreciate that slower approach.
And you have to know when it's not okay to look at your phone and Google something, because
Yes.
is it right? How many times do you pop a topic that has 150 options? Which
Certainly.
one which one is correct for what you want to use?
And that's the beauty of a small town, because we have access to all of our community members, or a lot of our community members.
Right.
And that, you don't have to Google it. You can be on the ground and see what's actually happening there.
Yeah.
And in management, you were mentioning that earlier. Can you talk a little bit more about your management experience?
Yeah, I mean, I started off way back when just as a part-time associate, and I worked my way up. I've run small box stores. I was a store manager at Foot Locker back in the 80s. Yeah, 1980. Old. And again, I just worked my way up. I typically looked for things that just improved my visibility. Obviously, growing up, you're trying to drive your finances as well. I was with Macy's for 8 years, and we moved around a lot. We were sharing earlier that it taught me a lot about teaching and talking to people, and how do you communicate right, and you have to actively listen more than you have to actively speak,
Sure.
right? And we were taught that at Macy's, and I've always tried to teach my staff and people around me those same things.
And what's interesting is I have 2 kids, and you mentioned management. I cannot apply the same parenting to one child as I can the other. They've come into the world, and I think employees are that way as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And so are the constituents.
Every person is different. They all have their own motivations.
Correct.
And you mentioned a little bit about financial and fiscal responsibility. I'd like to ask you about that. Managing budgets is a big part of both running a business and serving in local government. Could you give us a specific example of how you would ensure fiscal responsibility for Bishop while still meeting the community needs?
Sure. Anything about budgets when you're doing them is, first of all, you have to make a realistic budget, right? If you know that your taxable income is $1 million a year, your budget isn't necessarily $1 million. You have to figure out, just hopefully based on history, you have to figure out what percentage of that is my oh no fund.
Yes.
Right? So every year, emergencies come up. You don't know what they are. So you take 3%, 5%, you take a percentage of that and you put it in the bank for a rainy day, because it's going to rain.
Yes.
Right? Is it going to be heavy snow this year? We're going to have water runoff, so we're going to have some damage from that we're not going to account for. Is it going to be a dry year and we have to figure out how to move water differently? Just everything. So you have to have a contingency plan. So if you're comfortable with the budget, so you take 10%, you put it aside. Now you figure out what that other 90% needs to go to. And with the department heads, just like business, in business you have your managers, your operations people. They're going to tell you what they want to accomplish for the year. So they come to you with their wishes, and then you figure out what's left over. And then you just have to make sure that you're accounting for every penny.
Yes.
By forecasting correctly. And again, it's knowing what your budget is.
Certainly.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I like the idea of saving for the future. And we all remember the winter and all of the runoff that came here to Bishop afterwards. That was unimaginable.
It's some of the things that I know that the city, that they're working on now and talking to, like,
Yeah.
they're working on things
Sure.
that happened from the flood, the runoff, the water runoff and everything. And everybody has to know what that budget is, and
Yes.
they have to know what their role is in it. I've heard that the great part about the department heads now is when they're doing their forecasting, they're meeting together. And so one may say, hey, I have some really big needs coming up. Can we put your big need to next year, right? So they're working together, which makes it really nice. So it's not just the city council saying, hey, we have $1 million. This is what we're going to do.
Yes.
They're not guessing.
That's-
They're getting great information to give good feedback.
And that leads us into my next question, and that's concerning infrastructure. Infrastructure is a hot topic. What improvements do you think Bishop needs most, and how would you fund these projects?
Infrastructure is one of those words that it's not a sexy word. It really isn't. Like, what does infrastructure mean? Infrastructure is like, how many people want to turn on their water faucet and have water? All of them do. They don't think about it, right? When you dial 911, do you want the fire department, police department, ambulance to show up? That's infrastructure, right?
Yes.
I mean, you know what it is, but how many people really think about that?
Well, and it's something that you don't notice unless it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah. When
So-
it's not working, you're not happy.
Yeah, so you want it to be completely in the background and not noticeable, because if it doesn't work, then that's a pretty serious situation.
Correct. Yes. And I think, like, in Bishop being an older small town, it really is, are we set up to get 2 or 3 years from now? Look at technology, right? Is there new technology that's going to help prepare the infrastructure for the upcoming years?
Yes.
Is there new training that we need to get the police department to make them better responders? Is there better equipment we need to get for the fire department to make them more efficient, right? And more creative in what they're doing? I don't have any specifics on what has to be done to get us there. It's, again, that's one of those things that I would have to learn. And the city council has a good forecasting currently as to what's going to happen in the next year or two. I mean, I know they're working on they're working on sewer pipelines going down Line Street.
Yes,
They're
that's a
working
big project.
Yeah, they're talking about a new water treatment plant that needs to go in because we've outgrown the 2 for whatever reason that we have. You know, and working with all the agencies side by side.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into it. But it's, to prioritize it, to me, it's health and life safety are first.
Absolutely.
Those have to be first. We have to take care of our people. And that, I'm not saying it's not being done, but that to me is huge.
And you mentioned growth, and sustainable growth means different things to different people. You mentioned a water treatment plant or a sewer treatment plant. What does it mean to you in the context of Bishop, and how would you promote sustainable growth?
Growth in Bishop, I think, is a really interesting term. We don't have the ability to grow much because the land is owned by DWP and we lease it from them. So we're not going to get another 500 homes built in the next 3 years. So for growth, I think it's more fiscal responsibility, making sure we're spending our money appropriately with the right tasks. And right is up for debate. We won't talk much about that, you know, because what you think is good may not be what's right for the city. So it's that's the city council's job.
Well, and I love that collaboration too. If there's 5 people on the board, so there are 5, hopefully different but complementary opinions where you get to that decision as to what is best for growth.
Correct. So growth to me is like financial stability. Are we able to grow our small business market? There are a lot of empty storefronts, right? How do we, as the city council, interact with the small businesses when they come in? It's not like we're going out recruiting them. When somebody comes in and they want to open a business, it's our role to play the ambassador for the city. What do we have to offer? Can we create some sort of a tax plan for the first year to give them a break, take care of their licensing for the first year so they don't have to do a business license and other things? We have to spitball in a way to make it cost effective for small businesses to come in. I mean, luckily with us, Grocery Outlet did a lot of that for us, but we still had our own pieces that we had to fill, and it's not an easy path to go down.
Well, and I wanted to ask you, as a small business owner, what were your challenges? What did you face when you came into Bishop? And you're mentioning now how to support other small businesses, but personally, what challenges did you face?
The challenges that we faced, we moved from Clovis, and they moved our store opening up about 2 months. So we thought we had a longer timeline to get stuff done. So we really had to hit the ground running. The challenges that we faced, and honestly, Grocery Outlet as a partner did a great job in taking care of a lot of those. They have a construction team, real estate team, so they dealt with a lot of the major headaches. For us, it was staffing, figuring out payroll, figuring out where we were going to live. Things that everybody's dealing with now, jobs, housing. And I think being a business owner and sitting on the council, if somebody were to come in, we can share what we accomplished. right? We had 300 people come to our opening interview.
My
we
goodness.
We were not ready for it. We were told numerous times that it would be very difficult to get interviews, let alone hire people. So
And that wasn't your experience?
We were blown away.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
What do you credit that experience to?
That was luck. I mean, really, we set up 2 interviews. We had Saturday, Sunday interviews. Sarah and I, we had 2 people who were interviewing every half an hour. And then we took walk-ins. We're like, okay, we don't know how many we're going to get.
Yes.
So we filled up our entire calendar Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. No lunches, no breaks. Plus, we had 200 people walk in. So it was incredible. It was just really lucky. I think we advertised in the paper. Tawny Thompson was great.
With
she
the
helped us out a
chamber?
lot. She talked about it to people. And we got lucky and talked to the right people.
How many positions did you have to fill? when
We
you- when
hired
you started?
35.
35.
We
that's
thought
a
we were
lot.
going to overhire. We dropped down to 25 after the first 6 months. And now we're back up to 35.
35.
Yeah.
That's a good number for you?
Seems to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of folks to keep employed.
It's a lot of headaches. It's a lot of love. It's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I bet it is. If you could go back 7 years and give yourself advice as a new business owner coming into Bishop, what would you have said to that person at that time from where you sit today?
I would probably, as a business owner, I would probably say continue to trust the process, right? Because you hire people, you hire people with thinking they're going to put their best foot forward,
Yes.
right? And when they come to work, you have to trust their heart. Are they going to be the right person for the job? And it's okay. You're going to have some drop off. You always are.
Sure.
But I would say just trust the process. Understand that I know what I'm doing. That hiring and talking to people, it's a gut feeling. Do you like that personality, right? I've always built my team based on personality, not necessarily a skill set.
I like that approach.
It's grocery. It's not. We're not
Yes.
curing cancer. We're not sending
Sure.
people to the moon. We're putting cans of soup with cans of soup.
But that interaction with the customer or the client when they walk through the door, it is enormous. I was a manager for some time in a bank, and it was always a challenge for my associates to, whatever is happening at home, you just let it go. Let it at home. We walk through the doors, and we're here for our customers. And then at home, you can pick all that stuff back up. But to be able to give yourself that out and just let that go while you're here working. So, and if you can find somebody that can do that, that's a very valuable employee.
And I mean, also in trusting that process, you have to trust that they're going to figure it out on their own.
Yes.
Way back when in my life, I saw a training video that was about Disney, not promoting Disney, but Disney has great training for their people. Their customer
Yeah.
service is amazing.
Yeah.
Imagine going to Disneyland and Goofy had a bad day, right? And he's in his suit. And
Right,
what's he
yes.
going to do when he walks out and he's talking to the public?
Yeah,
He
and-
can't kick the little kid because he had a bad day.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not going to happen.
Well, and that
So,
child, that might be
yeah.
that's him or her
That's it.
only
That's their
time to
life.
be at Disney, right,
Right?
there,
Yeah.
and it's not an option to have a bad day.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's really the same thing at our store. It's about the people. And we have a great relationship with our staff. We take really good care of them. They're our work family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they treat our customers really well, and it goes hand in hand.
That's great. And what a compliment to local government.
Yeah,
You know, we're all a community. We're all a family here.
Correct.
So
It is, and listening to him. I mean, last night the chamber, the city council meeting was a long meeting because they were covering some good topics. But at the end, they were all laughing together, even though there were a
Good.
couple of moments that were
Yeah.
a little bit. Not heated is the word, but they were
Yeah.
a little more contentious than most topics were. But at the end, they're all laughing.
And at the end, we have
it's
to-
such a great relationship.
and it's beautiful. You got to get back to that common goal at the end. So
Yeah, and they all know, and that's where I think I can fit in really well, is to be a piece of the puzzle.
And
it's not
complement
about
that.
me. Yeah, it's about the city.
Yeah. Dennis, I'm gaining so much information from you. I really appreciate talking about your business experience as well. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Dennis. Welcome back, everybody, to Business Matters with me, Amy Smith, your host today, and we're talking to Dennis of the Grocery Outlet. Dennis is running for a seat on the Bishop City Council. Thanks for sticking around because I've got some more questions. I'd love to keep talking if you have the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect.
Having a good time.
Oh, me too. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit about community engagement.
Okay.
One of your priorities is making sure that every resident's voice is heard.
Mm-hmm.
How will you engage the community and encourage more involvement in local governance?
Encouraging it is, it's difficult. People have to want to volunteer the information. Being a business owner, everybody that knows me at the store, and they know that I'm very approachable.
Yes.
You know, so I'd like to think that I will continue that. I think to be more involved in it is to be more involved in events as they occur, be it the Friday night markets, the Hispanic Heritage that just happened this weekend. That was a great event.
Yeah.
To be at that. Even high school football games, just be out there, be visible to everybody, not just be sitting in an office. I think that I'm easily approachable.
I would say so.
I don't know if that's true, but
I would agree with that statement.
That's my opinion. Who knows if it's right? But the community involvement piece is hard. You're asking questions of people that they may not even know the issue you're talking about as a topic.
Sure.
You know, so do you go out and you volunteer that information to them and try and get unsolicited responses? Because you never know what you're going to get that way.
Yes.
Right? Do you listen to, I kind of have a weird way to say it, out of 100% of the people, you have 1% that are very low maintenance that aren't going to share their opinions. Then you have 1% that they're going to share their opinion about everything, whether you want to hear it or not.
Yes.
They're going to just be howling at the moon. But is that the right thing that we need to focus on? Is that the right answer? You need to listen to all 100%, but you need to key to the 98% in the middle.
Yes.
And that's the key, is knowing how do you get information from people and turn it into a plus. Even that 1% that's howling at the moon, it may be they may be saying the right thing. So you can't dismiss them. Because they're typical, oh, that's Jim, he's crazy. He's always got something weird to say, right?
Right.
But Jim's got a great idea this one time, so you have to listen to it.
Sure.
Soliciting that information is always difficult. Again, the core amount of the people, they're not going to get involved. They're going to have an opinion, though. Just really being willing to share what is happening, what the vision of the council is, and being willing to listen to what people are asking for. But I think the best way to do that is just to be out in the public more.
Well, and I think when you're in the public space, you get to see the positive aspects of the community. As you're mentioning, you know, with those more vocal individuals, sometimes people like to speak up when they're unhappy, and they don't say anything when they're happy.
Correct.
So it's important to get out there and see what's really making people happy as well.
Correct.
Like the Heritage the festivities that took place that sounded just amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great that came to Bishop.
And the great part about all those events that I talked about is just you're inclusive. It's not just one demographic. It's everybody together enjoying an event, which is amazing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's always so much fun.
It's super important to me. We're like, if the people in my store, we have 32 associates right now, and they're 32 totally different people. We have every different type of demographic in the store, and we love having that.
Yeah. Well, and we all, most of us live here for the beauty of the area, so we've all got that common thread.
Correct.
There are not a lot of people here. You know, we can experience in 2 or 3 minutes complete solitude on a trail.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I appreciate that part, and we're all kind of here enjoying these beautiful mountains together. So let's talk about a little bit about improving public services. Public services are key to maintaining a high quality of life. Which services in Bishop do you feel need the most attention, and how would you address that?
I really, at this point, I couldn't tell you which needs the most attention. From my personal perspective, all the public services do a good job. I haven't seen any issues that I would say, hey, we need to fix X, Y, Z. So the EMS is a big issue, having the ambulance services. You know, when you dial 911, who responds? Right? Like there's a service now that's doing it, but is it going to be, can we get that contract long term? what do we want to see in 2 or 3 years from now.
And it was my understanding that the contract is ending with a certain service. Is that what is happening with the EMS?
It is happening. I'm not sure when it happens,
Okay.
but the current company that's doing it, they did sign a shorter term contract. But is it something the city should take over? Do we want to take bids? I mean, how do we go about getting that? But it's a very vital service.
And it'll be a big job to tackle should
is.
you become elected. I think that will probably be a very pressing issue.
It is a big issue. I know the council has talked about, they've already started to talk about things like that. And I think the challenging part when having a conversation, being interviewed by someone like yourself and even the public, all of them coming up to you like, what do you want to do? What are you standing on?
Yeah.
It's not like you can flip a switch and say, hey, I'm all of a sudden going to walk in there on January 1st and EMS is fixed.
Yes.
I'm just going to walk in and do it. All those processes are already in place. Everything is moving forward. You turn one gear, 30,000 other gears have to turn. And in politics, it's 40,000 other gears that have to turn.
And that's understanding government.
Yeah.
And I think you don't walk in there on day one as an individual, but you carry the community's opinions and issues with you to present them to that board.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I've been going to the council meetings as much as I could, just trying to see where in the process are we. You can't go in day one and be even understanding what's occurred.
Sure, there's a learning
There's
process
a learning
there.
curve, and
Yeah.
I think by the time and attention that I've been trying to pay now, well, God willing, I'm elected. I'll be in a much better situation when I step in and when I sit and get sworn in.
Well, and even
by
having
that.
32 associates at your store, you're bringing their voices, you're bringing your
Correct.
community voices. So that is a high number, that's a lot of representation that you offer.
Yeah,
So.
if we get between 700 and 900 customers a day, so, and they're very
There's
willing
that
to
too,
share their
yes.
opinions with me.
Yes.
you
How do you
know.
think you'll be able to manage that if you are elected
Yeah.
and now you have your role in the store? You're there. You're very accessible. How do you think that's going to change if you become an elected official?
I hope it changes to where they start giving me their opinions on what they'd like to see.
Yes,
I hope
yeah.
that changes. Most of the conversations are really short. People understand that I'm there to drive the business in the store,
Yes.
to help the community getting food on the shelves and helping the staff. But I have probably 20 or 30 customers that will shoot the breeze for 3, 5, 10 minutes,
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
sports, events, their life, their kids,
Yeah.
just different things. It's been great building those relationships. But really, I hope that they share their feedback with me. I really need to know that so we can, again, it's the city council, it's not a person.
Sure.
Right? It represents the city. And I think a lot of people don't think about that when they think about what that role is.
Certainly something to consider. Dennis,
Yeah.
I've got a couple more questions for you, but we have
Sure.
to take a break. So
Okay.
let's take a moment and hear a little bit more from our sponsors, who we appreciate dearly. And we will be right back on Eastern Sierra Now, Business Matters with me, Amy Smith.
Once upon a time, the world relied heavily on fossil fuels to power its cities and cars. Corporations controlled these fuels and sold them at high cost. Though these fuels were powerful, they were polluting the air, making the skies gray and the rivers murky. People worried about the earth and their future. Then, one day, a group of wise and powerful wizards gathered from all corners of the globe. They worked together to harness the power of the sun, capturing its radiant energy in magical crystals. These wizards bestowed these sun crystals to the people, teaching them how to use the sun's endless light to power their homes and vehicles. As the people embraced this bright new gift, rooftops sparkled with the wizards' magical crystals, and cars began to hum gently, driven by sunlight. The skies cleared, the rivers sparkled, and the air became fresh again. The world thrived under the warm glow of the sun, and everyone lived happily ever after because, as the good wizard showed them, the power to change the world was within each of our grasp the whole time. Here's to a happy and green ever after from your friends at High Point Solar and Electric.
All right, welcome back to Eastern Sierra Now, Business Matters with me, your host, Amy Smith. Dennis, thanks for sticking around. I'm taking your whole morning, but I appreciate that, and I appreciate you staying here and talking to us.
Thank you.
There's one more question that I wanted to ask you, actually a couple of more, but most importantly, homelessness and housing affordability, they're growing issues across many communities. Do you see homelessness or housing as a concern in Bishop? And what actions do you think the city can take to address them?
Housing is a huge issue, just the affordability of it. And living where we live, it's going to be a challenge. We're not getting more land. Right, like we talked about earlier. We can't just build 500 new homes. It's how do we take care of the spaces that we have, and can we be creative? You know, I know some cities like downtown Fresno took second stories of businesses and rezoned them for apartments and residential living. Can we do that? You know, can we figure out how to get DWP to release the strings a little bit? You know, to get more housing. And the cost of the housing is becoming, it's unaffordable. You have people that are coming in, traveling nurses trying to staff the hospital.
Yes.
You know, we live at J Diamond. We have people, we have 3 or 4 that live in their trailers just because it's the only way that they can get up here to live and to work. I mean, luckily there are enough trailer parks and stuff around that is a feasible option. But somebody that wants to move up here with their family doesn't want to do that.
Oh, I'm sure they'd want a
right?
more permanent housing situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the houses, when they're here, a lot of them are older. They need renovations. It costs a lot of money. But there's a lot of money coming from LA that is coming to just buy the houses, and whether it's a second house or a third house.
Yes.
And I don't honestly know what the regulations are that the city council could put in place to stop them from using that as a long-term rental or something, that it has to be a primary residence. I don't know if that's something that's legal or feasible, but we have to be creative with the space that we have. If we have like the old Kmart building, can you sublet that?
Make it something. It's
Do
hard to see it
something
sitting
with it.
there
It's-
empty. It's been empty for such a long amount of time.
It's hard, and
Yeah.
it's also right on Main Street too. So everybody that drives through is seeing
Yeah.
this big empty blight on the side of the
Yes.
side of the road.
Yeah.
And it's hard to miss because there's nothing in front of it, as we all know.
You know, and it's
yeah.
interesting because I've talked to other city council members about similar things, and those buildings are privately owned. So how can you encourage those owners to do something with them? And I guess regulations would tell you if they could just let it be vacant and empty, or if they have to do something with it other than just let it sit there. It surprises me.
It's crazy the amount of money that the private owners are spending to leave the building vacant.
Yes, to me that's
Right.
just it's a subject I don't have a lot of information on, and I don't understand. It's hard for me to understand why you would want to have a vacant building.
It's hard to me. It's hard for me as a business owner to understand why I would want to spend a penny being wasted on something that nobody else was using.
Sure,
Well, you could sell it. You could
yeah.
do sublet it. There's other things you can do to make money too that would help the community. I just and the homelessness side of it, I honestly don't know what the solutions with that would be.
It's heartbreaking.
It's hard. I mean, we have our 5 or 6 local homeless people that I see
Yes.
walking around.
Yes.
You know, my wife and I will pick them up and drive them where they need to go. Just try to help wherever you can.
Sure,
I guess,
sure,
you know,
yeah.
and we always try to give them food or whatever, just try to at least help them be healthy.
That's good.
But yeah, it's hard. I don't even know how
Yeah.
you would begin to
Yeah.
curb the homelessness.
Well, and it always comes back to the issue: is it a choice? Do they enjoy that? Is that their way of life? And if it is, how can we impose a different value on that?
Correct.
And if it's not, how can we help them to get the help that they want? So
Right.
I appreciate your insight on that. Thank you. You've mentioned maintaining Bishop's high quality of life. I think we can all agree that we've got a very high quality of life here. What initiatives do you have to protect or enhance it?
It's a tough question, and I can't answer it in depth because again, I'm not sure what the city council already has in play for the next year or 2 years, and I believe that those gears are turning. The quality of life here is based on the people that are here, and I think it all rolls together. It's providing housing for people, making sure they have a good place to live, they have a good place to work, they have an efficient community, right? Are we spending our dollars correctly? Is the infrastructure supporting them? It all is just one big ball of wax, I think.
I think you're right.
I really do. And without trying to keep it a great place to live is by having the right people representing it that are going to have that same vision and listen to what is being said and make the correct actions to keep things strong. And it's a great community. It really is.
I do. I just, I chose to live here. I moved here from, 3,000 miles away, and I love it here. And I stay here for the people. I moved here for the mountains, but it is. And I think having that consistent vision is very important because we want to see the town grow in a consistent way that benefits all of the community members.
Definitely.
And one last thought before we go. What is your long-term vision for Bishop, and how would you help Bishop to achieve that vision?
It's again, that's a really tough question to answer when I'm not 100% sure of how the role of the city council can move something.
Sure.
Politics aren't easy.
You're right about that.
It's not just in any level, whether it be tiny town or huge government. It's you can't move the mountain. You have to figure out what needs to be done and move to it. My long-term goals are to just forecast the best that you can, utilizing the department heads. Again, use their expertise. I'm not a fireman. I'm not a police officer. I don't know anything about public works or parks or the financial planning a city has. That's what their roles are. Like, what do they think should happen in 3 or 5 years, right? And then balancing all of that. And it's about taking the business skills that I have in projections and planning and utilizing that to help the city be strong. As strong as it is now, it needs to be in 5 years, in 10 years. And if I'm elected, it's not something I want to do just for one term. It's something I want to do for multiple terms, because I think the longer you're in it, the more efficient you are, the more you can make changes. I mean, I'm not going to be in it for 30 terms. I'm too old, but 2 or 3 would be great. It really would. I think, in 6, 8, 10 years, you can see a lot of change, and you can feel, were you productive? You can take what you missed 3 years ago and apply it to the next 3 years. Does that make any sense?
It does. It's hard to, it does make sense. It's a very broad question.
It's a very broad question, and I think the broader questions are more difficult to answer. For me, because I'm not in the position now. I mean, I can tell you long-term goals at my business. Sure. Because I know what's going on.
And it sounds like you want to stay in Bishop. It sounds like this is home for you.
Yeah. We grew up. We didn't grow up, but over the last 25 years on the other side of the Sierras. And as soon as we came over here, we fell in love with it. Yeah. So we're here till we retire. Sarah says I'm never going to retire. So
I think I agree with her. I don't see you slowing down.
I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see.
Well, Dennis, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been so nice to talk to you, not only about your political aspirations, but also about the business. I didn't know a lot of that information about Grocery Outlet, so thank you for sharing that with us. I'll be sure to say hi when I'm in shopping.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And as things progress, if you ever want to come back, talk about the business, talk about politics, we're always here for you. Eastern Sierra Now's viewers and listeners would love to catch up in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.
Good luck to you. I can't wait to see how everything goes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Hi, I'm Dennis Freund, and I'm running for City Council in Bishop. I would appreciate your vote on November 5th. It's one of the great things about being an American is that you get to take the time to vote and to share your opinion. If you would like to reach out to me, I'm the owner of the Grocery Outlet. I'm there almost every morning. Feel free to come on in. I don't have a website or anything. I do have an email that I created. It is Freund, 4 citycouncil@yahoo.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. The best way to get a hold of me is at the store, though. You can leave a message, come on in, say hi. We appreciate all that you guys do to make the city of Bishop such a beautiful place. And again, I would love to have your vote. Have a great day.
Thank you for joining us today for this discussion with Dennis Freund, candidate for the Bishop City Council. We've heard his insights on everything from fiscal responsibility to infrastructure to homelessness and small business support. As always, stay informed, get involved, and make your voice heard. And remember, stay mindful, stay connected, and take the time to enjoy our beautiful Eastern Sierra. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It's what motivates us to keep bringing you this amazing content. And a huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you.